Hi. Hi. How are you? Great. Wonderful. So we are here today to talk about beyond broadcasting and uploading on YouTube, Twitch, whatever your preferred platform is. How many of you guys are content creators right now? How many of you would like to do something other than content related to content? Y'all are in the wrong panel.
Oh.
So basically what we're going to talk about today is each of the four of us are all content creators. We'll do introductions here in a second. So we're going to give you a little bit of a background about our content creation careers, but each one of us has had the opportunity to do something a little bit different than that. We've taken our content creation careers above and beyond. For me, I actually work for Twitch, and I'm the community manager over at Twitch. So I took what I had done. Yeah, Twitch. Woo! Hi, also everyone. This is being live streamed, so hello, Twitch chat. So I work for Twitch as the community manager, and I was able to take what I learned from content creation and apply that to my professional career. So I still do content, I still broadcast, I still upload, I still make videos, but I also now have a full-time career in the industry. So if y'all want to go down the line and talk about who you are, what you do, and then what you've done that takes content beyond just streaming or uploading.
Sure. Oh, gotta get close. My name is JP, also known as JP McDaniel. I used to be in the esports industry and left that 4 years ago to play Dungeons and Dragons online for some reason. And that turned into a career. So now I'm a full-time Twitch streamer as well as a show host and producer for shows like Roleplay, which is the D&D show, Drop Frames, which is a weekly video game podcast, and just normal streams. And then alongside that, I also started a Patreon for Roleplay, which has been up for like
14 months or something?
like 11 months now or something like that. And it's been going pretty well, pretty successful. So yeah, that's kind of the story over the past 5 years.
Have you heard of Critical Role?
I have, yeah. We've had Mercer on a bunch of times, so good guys.
Hi, my name's Pocket, or Hillary, and I too am a Twitch streamer mostly. I started on YouTube and Twitch at the same time, but decided I didn't like YouTube as much. I'm sorry to anyone that's a fan. I actually started because I played MMOs and there were really bad healers, and someone said, well, if they're so bad, why don't you just make guides? And that's exactly what I did. And now, 6.5 years later, here I am streaming and working on cosplay. So I worked in the game industry. I worked for companies like Blizzard and BioWare, Crytek, but I decided I'd rather stream and make content. So I'm lucky I'm able to do that.
Yeah. What's up, guys? My name is Joe Fails. I'm a Twitch partner. I run a channel called Joe Never Fails. I used to have a six-figure salary selling cars, and I gave that up to play video games for a living. And I'm super grateful that I did that. There came a point in my life where I wanted to do something more for my own sake and for my happiness than like for money, and I found that in this industry, and it's a beautiful thing. I want to get more into hosting and commentary for video games, but I've done things like I hosted a PvP tournament for Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest in Las Vegas, and I will be officially announcing today, which is pretty cool. I'll be hosting a panel with Square Enix at EVO in Las Vegas next week, which is really cool. So there's a lot of opportunity available to content creators as in a platform of like live broadcasting and stuff like that. So excited to be here.
So I think one of the main things that we all have in common is there was at some point we all hit kind of a wall in content creation where content creation alone was not enough to either fulfill us like emotionally in what we were doing in our day-to-day job, or it was a financial thing. I know for Roleplay, launching the Patreon helped you guys elevate your content to the next level, and you were able to do a lot more things that you weren't able to do before. I know for me, I hit that wall. I am a single mom, and if anybody is a content creator, you guys all know that ad monetization on any platform can be pretty unpredictable from month to month, whether it's seasonal, whether it's because there's a Super Bowl one month and not the next month because advertisers don't spend in like Q4. A lot of those things can impact your day to day, and it was not stable enough for me to feel comfortable having just left my full-time job to do content creation. I did it for a month and was like, oh hell no. And then Twitch came to me and said, hey, you have a lot of experience in Minecraft and we don't know much about that. Would you like to come and work for us full-time and help explain this to us, help build that community on our platform? And that's kind of how I got my start into Twitch. So I was able to take what I knew from content creation and turn that into a career because of people that I had met. And that for me is why I decided that content, it wasn't good for me. I didn't like the stable. I didn't know what would happen when I'm like old and gray and nobody wants to hear my Minecraft commentary anymore. Like, what does my career look like after that? And then going to a job in the industry itself had longevity to it. There was something that I knew I could build on for the next 30 years, that I could retire comfortably and not make a bunch of money in the short term and have no idea what I was going to do long term. So for the rest of you guys, what did that story look like? What was the reasoning behind saying, you know what, just streaming or just making content isn't where I want to go? And what did that look like? Was there a process? Was it just, this just isn't enough for me? Or did you actually have a plan when you started content that I know that my next step is going to be this when I hit certain goals?
I think that I never really had a plan to stay streaming for the rest of my life. I mean, unless people want to watch an 80-year-old grandma, I guess, stream, then, I mean, I could see that maybe, but...
There's a thing for everyone.
There's a market for that.
Actually, I do think a grandma streams on Twitch.
Get it.
Anyway, no, I always wanted to get into more of the, dealing with the fans directly, but also still very much being myself. And whenever you work for a company, you're very... censored on what you can say. And I understand why, but at the same time, if someone's doing nothing but hating on you, it feels really liberating to just say, hey, F off, dude. But, you know, I also kind of wanted to get into things like hosting and interviewing, things I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about video games, cosplay, anything creative really as well. And luckily, Twitch also has that side where you can be creative, you can do art, and you can explore that in several different ways. And so I think that that helps satisfy my creative need. And I wanted to get more into art. And so that was my sort of, let's push out into that and focus on that as well. So
I think one of the most difficult things actually pulling off a successful full-time broadcast is understanding what that undertaking is. You know, a lot of people see from the outside, oh, I'd like to play video games for a living. And if I could just sit in front of a screen and play video games for a living, that would be really easy. But the actual skill sets that are required to pull that off in terms of like social media management and community management and scheduling and how you're going to take advantage of video game releases, I think a lot of people don't understand from the surface level. There's a really large gap in knowledge from someone who's getting involved and somebody who's actually pulling it off. And unless you're in that top 10% of like content creators, it's really not worth it in terms of the time invested. So you learn so much and do so much work and don't see that return. But because of those skill sets that you learn when you like meet with somebody or talk to a developer or talk to a community manager or talk to a company, if you were to put that on a resume and give that to another company, you very easily have a job, and you don't realize the experience that you're creating. So like for me, the business relationships that I developed with developers, with BioWare, Square Enix, Pipeworks, different companies that I've worked with over the course of my career, I realized that I actually might have a better position as a community manager. I might have a better position that would be full-time without the stresses of worrying about how many subscribers I need a day or how many donations I need to survive and not eat peanut butter and jelly for 2 years straight, you know, to pursue my passion. So there has to be a better way is really the reason why I'd like to continue my career.
Well, I think that's something to say about a lot of people that get into streaming. Like when I did it, it was never a job for me. I did it when Justin TV was still around, so Twitch was either just became a thing or was becoming a thing still. And you didn't get into it then because of money. You did it because, hey, I'm gonna share this thing I really like, and if people watch, that's really weird, but you know, I hope they enjoy what I'm doing. And I did a lot of raiding back then, and I do different games now, but people would watch the raids because they'd be like, how does she do this, or how does the team do this? And that was really interesting, and I did it for fun. And some people just do that. They have a part-time job or a full-time job, and part-time they just stream some video games. So you can still stream, and that's fine. But making a living off of it is where it does get tricky. So
Yeah, I think to follow up with what Joe was saying, it's really interesting. I have a lot of parents, and especially like high school and college kids that I talk to all the time that ask, how can I get a job in the gaming industry, or how can I become a content creator full time? And my answer to them is, it's very much like becoming a professional athlete, where people who become professional NBA players, or they go into the NFL from college, it's something that they're passionate about. They continue to hone their skills. They enjoy the game. They want to work on it. But the number of kids who play high school and football are play football in high school to the number of people that end up being in the NFL, there's a huge drop off there, right? But just because you don't make it into the NFL doesn't mean you can't continue to play football. Doesn't mean you can't play on pickup teams. It doesn't mean that you can't still pursue something that you're passionate about. And people who are passionate about football, baseball, whatever, and they don't make it into the pro leagues still have information and knowledge that make them assets to that industry. And you can take the things that you learn from broadcasting as a hobby or content creation as a hobby and apply those to careers. So right now, I know when I was in college, because I'm old, they didn't have, YouTube wasn't even a thing. Like Facebook had just allowed university students to sign up, and my university didn't have university emails, so like all the cool kids had Facebook, and I was just still using MySpace. So my point is that back then I didn't even know this could be a career for me, right? So I continued to play video games all the time, Sims, whatever, in my basement, and that eventually became something that I could pursue later. So I think the key thing is that if you want to pursue content as a career, there are ways to do it not being a streamer, not being a whatever, and you can still pursue that career without having to do that full time or like be a big YouTuber with like millions of subscribers. But to get to you, JP, you launched the Patreon. What was the decision for you to start the Patreon, and like, how does that, do you just go like, I'm just gonna try this? Was there a guide? Was there anything that, any mentors that like you looked to say, this is what I should be doing, and this is what these are the steps I know I need to take and what I'm gonna get out of it?
I think with a lot of things in content creation, it becomes a risk of anything you want to do is a risk. If you want to do a new show, if you want to stream a new game, if you want to make a new video, if you want to make a YouTube channel, the entire thing is a gamble. And so with the Patreon stuff, it was a gamble, but it was kind of calculated. I think one mistake that a lot of content creators do is they just throw up a Patreon as a way for people to give them money without any really thought to it. And so I guess one piece of advice is like, put some thought into it. Look at what other people that are successful on the platform are doing and see what you can either pull from them. Because at the end of the day, Twitch and YouTube are pretty much just videos copying one another. Trends occur and you kind of follow those trends, and that's mostly at the base level the whole game of content creation. To kind of go back to what Joe was saying, the best way, I guess, to get started in the industry is to take what you know before you get into it and apply that to what you're doing. So with Joe, like, he knew game developers, so he tied them in and got them interested in what he was doing and worked with them. For me, I worked in the esports world, and I knew a ton of people just in the esports world, and I brought them into playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time and brought their communities over to see someone that was kind of like a hardcore gamer that played games for a living professionally to rolling dice. Which is kind of a huge contrast, and their fan base was interested in watching that. But for the Patreon stuff, we looked at what everyone else was doing. And Patreon was still kind of growing, and it still is today. And if you're a big enough content creator or a content creator that it could get Patreon interest in what you're doing, they're actually willing to talk to you, and you can kind of learn the best practices. And they've stepped up their game a lot and have guides and information on there that works best for other content creators. So you can go look out and find that information yourself. But it's really just doing your research. I think that's probably one of the best things. And some of that research isn't like, how do I stream on Twitch? It's going and watching streams and seeing what's working out there for other people.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that if you're a big creator and you're interested in getting Patreon launched as part of your kind of content creation tool set, they're willing to talk to you. That's another question a lot of people get is it who you know, or is it truly what you know? And I think it's a little bit of both when you're talking about the gaming industry, because it seems like the video gaming industry, for as large as it is and as global as it is, it always seems like everybody kind of knows each other. So getting into that and kind of breaking that inner circle can be a little bit difficult. So I know for me, when I got approached to work at Twitch, it was because I had met someone at a charity event and had been ranting about how much I hated my job, and like I had all this experience and I wish I could do something different, and had no idea that eventually 2 months later he'd be calling me being like, so I remember you hated your job, do you want to come work for me? And I just happened to like luck out totally that I ranted to the right person apparently. and he had reached out to me and I had had the experience. But for you guys breaking into either Patreon and getting kind of them to help you with those next steps, or with Joe with the gaming industry, or Pocket, you and your gaming industry and your cosplay and creative stuff, how do you start that networking process? Do you just cold call someone? Do you walk up to them at a convention and hand them a business card? The answer is no, don't do that. But how
Yes.
does that work for you, and what did you do specifically to help you with that?
I feel like I cheated. I definitely cheated. I streamed Rift and I worked at Tryon. So I was a QA there and I would stream their raids. And what was great about that is I didn't like broadcast, oh, I work at Tryon. But I did broadcast. And I would find so many bugs. It was great. And but then I very much beyond that would go up and introduce myself to people. And I wouldn't be like, hi, I'm your biggest fan. It was more so just, hey, I do this and I'm interested in this. And you'd be surprised how many friends you can make just being genuine. Or maybe you wouldn't, but yeah. So that's really how I did it, is I just was very talkative and friendly and got to know people. So and would email them or would reach out. I met a lot of cosplayers that way by reaching out to them and saying, hey, I need advice because I know nothing about the cosplay world. And so I would email some, I would Twitter some, and they would respond like, oh, you want to know about this? Okay, well, here's what you do. Here's what I like. And it's really helpful just to reach out sometimes. So,
JP, Joe, any advice?
For me, real quick, I can tell a great story about this too. But like, if I had friends in development before I started this, it would have been fairly easy for me. I didn't know anybody until I started broadcasting. It took 9 months to get partnered. But one of the things that I did was I told myself very early on that if I was going to succeed in this field that I wanted to do, it was like, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to fail. So it's time to succeed. So every single person that I ever came across, I did my absolute best to make a good impression with, and make sure that they knew who I was, what I did, and where I did it, and where they could find me. When I sold cars, I was in the exact same position. I was working in grocery stores my whole life, and I had 2 part-time jobs, and when I got my first job selling cars, it was my first real opportunity to make a living for myself. So I started reading books, I started picking my boss's brains, and I applied myself to that job. And one of the biggest parts of selling cars is being personable, being upfront, and talking to people face to face. So I took everything, it was like the perfect storm. I took everything that I learned in the car business to networking inside of this industry. And I can honestly say, like, almost every single person that I either met at a party or that I met at a booth, I now know today, and I'm working with now that my career has developed. So those people that I first bumped into, I'm still like going through my Twitter for RTX 2 years ago, or a year ago, PAX South a year ago. Who was that guy that I know works at ESPN? Oh, that's that guy. Let me go talk to him now. And it all comes into play because there are so little, like, the industry is big, but there are only so many people that you need to know that can help. So for me, it was just not taking anybody for granted and knowing that opportunities multiply as they're seized. If I take every single opportunity and I don't take anything for granted, it'll probably pay off later on in the long run, and being grateful for those opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you remember this, but I knew who you were at PAX South 2015, and I walked straight up to you, and I had no idea.
Right.
Like nobody knew who I was at that point, but I walked straight up to you, and I was like, I know who you are from Twitch, and it's nice to meet you. And like, I don't recommend doing that, but at some point, I don't have any fear of it. So if I had fear of walking up to people and introducing myself, I would be nowhere because I would know no one. But
Right.
if you can get over that fear, it can pay off. The risk is worth.
you remember when I met you, right? I was drunk
Yeah.
and I ran into him, and then I was just
Oh
like,
yeah, you were drunk. That's right.
I ran into him, and then I was like, awkward, and I just walked away.
Yeah, that was at PAX East, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the best ways, if you don't necessarily have the connections, or maybe you're not the type of person that could just walk up to someone at a convention or anything like that, is just try to become part of a community. Don't force your way into it, but if you like a specific channel and it's a small enough channel to where you can actually have a voice, but not big enough to where you won't have a voice, but you could still gain something from it, just joining that community and trying to get involved in there and saying like, hey guys, I'm going to try streaming something. If you want to come check it out, feel free. Don't do that when they're live. There's a bunch of Twitch etiquette in there. that you got to adhere to so you don't piss the person off. But when it comes to just content creation in general, there's kind of two avenues, YouTube and Twitch. And I think most people look at that and think, which one is better? Where do I go to? I think this panel is probably pretty Twitch biased, but it's for good reason. And the people at Twitch actually will talk to people that necessarily don't have 1 million followers. At YouTube, I've been on there 5 or 6 years, and I've never spoken to an actual YouTube rep ever. And I know people with 1 million+ subs who have the same exact situation. Yeah, like there is no YouTube rep.
It's an automated system.
It's really
for
difficult.
Sure. Like you don't even the replies to the replies are automated.
Right.
Like I'll tell a story when you're done, but it's a robot.
It's really difficult.
It's AI.
Yeah, when it gets down to it. And you go over to Twitch and you just see, you can go into pretty much any channel at any time and you can click on the chat list, and at the top you'll probably see a staff member watching. And that doesn't mean you should hound that person. It just means that they're accessible. So if something is messing up, if you need help,
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. They respond to Twitter on constantly, and they're very vocal too. So it's one of the better avenues, I think, in terms of content creation to take part in. Just because you can just flick on a stream, or even now you can load up their mobile app and start streaming IRL and walking around a convention if you want to, and you'll probably get people to tune in because it's kind of a unique experience to be able to stream from the show floor of RTX, just walking around.
You're talking about live feed, right?
No,
No,
the Twitch app.
If you have a Twitch app, you can literally
Yeah.
just like type in your
Like
name
as
and hit
of
go
last
live.
week.
Like we can go live right now
Yeah.
and just be on the phone
You can stream from
through
it.
Twitch.
I heard that live feed was something that was part of Twitch or affiliated with it.
Nope,
I don't
just
think
Twitch.
so.
Twitch Live.
Yeah.
Just through the app. We make it all easy for you. See? Better platform. So I think one of the things that you were saying is getting involved in the communities that you're trying to get into is really important. And I can say this as the community manager for Twitch. 100% of the time, if someone walks up to me and says, I'm a broadcaster, here's my card, there is a 0% chance I will remember that person again if they come up to me again and be like, hey, I met you at this thing. A, because I have a goldfish memory, but also because like there's no recollection when staff members and people who work in the industry are at these events. Our brains are not tuned into networking. We're tuned into like, we're trying to help get this thing set up, we're trying to do this, and so the retention for doing that, especially when we're meeting literally hundreds and hundreds of people, is very, very hard to do. And so the people that I remember are the people who are emailing me saying like, hey, I'm running a community meetup in this city and I'd like more information, and they're talking to me about the things they do. They're people that I see in community chats all the time because they're moderators, because they're making themselves a valuable part of the community, and then from there their accessibility to the people grow and grow and grow. It's very hard. It's just like any kind of telemarketing, right? If a telemarketer cold calls you, you're going to be like, I don't want to talk to you, and then you hang up the phone, right? But if it's you know, a company that you've worked with all the time and you have a reputable account, and the account manager from that says, hey, we recognize that you're a valued customer and we want to talk to you about this thing, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I know who you are, I know this company, like, let's talk for a second, right? It's the same thing in any industry. And so I think becoming a valuable part of the industry and not being afraid to email when you have a question, and not being afraid to reach out and say, hey, I have a question, or hey, I'm looking to get more involved in X, Y, and Z thing, how can you help me out? I have lots of people that email me. I do a lot of networking for like women in the gaming industry, and I have female developers or female community managers email me all the time and say, I just want advice on how I can do XYZ thing. I'm like, cool, let me spend 5 minutes and email them back. So becoming a valuable part, asking valuable questions, and not just like, hi, here's my name, I expect something from you, thank you, and then walking away. That's just, it's very hard to get any kind of response back from that. So going on to the next question, launching all of these things that you guys have done or going into the industry, I know that for myself, my content did take a hit when I did that, because I went from having all the free time in the world to none of the free time in the world. So I had to squeeze my content in when I could, which meant that it took a back seat to the things that I was doing. That's a little bit unique to what you guys are experiencing, but did you see any negative or positive impacts to your content going from just doing content creation to elevating it to that next level, whether it be cosplay or hosting or Patreon?
I think for me, in terms of the Patreon stuff, it gets a little, I wouldn't say weird, but there is definitely something that is expected when someone puts money towards your content once a month and wants something in return. And so I don't know if this is the same for other people, other Patreons, but there's definitely a sense of guilt. Like, I need to make sure that something happens because people are paying me. And that's a different type of content creation that I think a lot of people aren't used to, because if you stream on Twitch, you're mostly just playing games because you want to play games and people can watch, and that's kind of that. But once people start putting money towards that, it's a little bit weird. But apart from that, it really just comes down to like managing that and making sure it fits in with your current content, and make sure that nothing changes for the people that just want to watch, but for the people that do want to support you a little bit extra, that they also get their fair share of what they're paying for as well. And that's super important, to not piss off your audience, obviously.
But you saw a positive uptick in your creation after you launched Patreon. Like, you didn't negatively impact you.
Oh, right, yeah. We were definitely able to do more. We've done 2 live shows now, or 3 live shows, something like that. They all kind of blend together. But that's a full-on production with renting a bunch of crazy video equipment and stuff like that.
Set design.
Yeah, set design and all that stuff, which is something I've been familiar with because of the whole esports industry, which was nice because I was able to do all that and kind of bring that into what I'm doing now. And a lot of people just use a personal computer. We were using a TriCaster, which is a multi-$1,000 piece of equipment that can't really be operated by someone that's never seen it before. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and the fact that I had friends from esports and were able to throw that into it definitely helped. So I kind of pulled back my previous job back into the mix, which is nice.
Nice. Pocket, Joe?
I wouldn't say, I don't think my broadcast really changed. Obviously it changed when I went from working in the game industry and streaming to just streaming. I saw a huge increase in support. But I'd say when I got into cosplay and art, I didn't see an increase in viewers and all that, but I did see an increase in people. Like the last TwitchCon, I saw a huge amount of people that walked up to me and they said, "Man, I really love your crafting. I love watching it." And I was surprised. Nearly everyone that walked up to me didn't say they liked my gaming. Some said they liked my morning coffee. When I wake up, I drink coffee and talk to people for a couple hours to wake up. But some said they really liked that.
For a couple hours?
Yeah.
You take a long time to wake up.
It's IRL's out now, okay?
Okay.
You don't even know.
It used to be 20 minutes. Now you can just have
Yeah,
all
it was
the
like 20 minutes, and I'm like, 2 hours. That's like, like 20 minutes.
Close. 10 times. It's fine.
It really
Yeah,
does.
it really does.
But I started doing the crafting, and the amount of support I got for it from my audience was amazing. And I get a lot of support from other artists as well. And that's always nice to see. Like, that's part of the tight-knit crew of Twitch that I really like to see, is people supporting each other, small, large, doesn't matter. And I really liked that. It was really rewarding, even though I haven't completed many outfits. It was still rewarding to see how many people were like appreciative of that. So
Yeah. Joe?
I'm not there yet, so I'm very much so in like the stress and anxiety phase of it, because it's just picking up right now. And for a long time, like all I know right now is full-time broadcasting, and I stream way too much. So like I'm very scared of the next phase, but it's I use that to propel myself for more positivity in the future. Like I stream way too much, and I commit a lot of my free time to my content. I want my content to succeed, so I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I do get scared of it. Like, what happens if I'm not live for 6 days a week? What happens if I'm not live for my scheduled time? And I get worried about it, but I know the more opportunities that I have, and the more opportunities I have for people to see what I can do in other avenues, or for hosting and stuff like that, I know more positivity will come my way. Like for me personally, I had an opportunity to, I did an interview stream at BioWare a couple weeks ago, which was absolutely nuts. And just talking to people as opposed to talking to chat or playing video games and talking to chat made me so happy that it's worth the risk of, I might lose a little bit now, but the opportunities in the future might pay off, and not be as insecure as my month-to-month, day-to-day stream.
That's an interesting thing that you're bringing up too, because you're just starting to make kind of that intro into outside of content creation. When you're going into that and doing, like, you're going to be at EVO next month, you're going to be hosting a big thing at EVO. Yeah. Do you have expectations about what you want to get out of it? Do you go into those things saying like, wow, this is going to be the thing that's going to make people recognize my channel? Or do you look at that and go like, this is just a cool thing for me to put on my resume? What does that mental process look like for anybody who's never been through that before?
For me personally, for my background, like I was for a very long time a full-time Final Fantasy 14 MMO RPG broadcaster, and over the last 6 or 7 months I've branched out into other MMOs. It's the year of the MM Joe. So I play a lot of, yeah. So I play a lot of PvP doing it. So for me to have an opportunity to represent Square Enix, but also to represent Square Enix in Dissidia NT, the North American release on PS4 for Square Enix, it's like kind of the perfect storm. And the way that I live my life, like I'm very grateful for the opportunity, but it's meant to be. Like I know from where I come from with my passions in my life, like every person that I met got me to the chance where the question could be asked for me to say, yes, I will do this. So like I'm not scared of it. It's definitely not just something that I want on my resume. Like this is the biggest thing I'll ever do in my life. And like for the last, well, yet, but like every opportunity that I've had in the last 6 or 7 months has been the biggest opportunity of my career.
And it just keeps growing and growing.
I hope, fingers crossed, like I just want to keep continuing to work hard and be humble, and hopefully there'll be more progress in the future.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because a lot of these opportunities that you have when you're breaking kind of out of just content, whether it's working with brands or doing brand deals or having outside opportunities, you never quite know how they're going to impact you. So like one time I did a commercial on the Disney Channel and I was like, this is going to be the thing. Nobody knows. Like, no, I've never had someone come up to me like, you were that girl on the Disney Channel. Instead I get like, you were that girl on that stage one time that fell down. I'm like, yeah, that was me. 200 people watched and all 200 happened to be in a 500 person room somehow, but thank you. So going into those opportunities, you never really do know what they're going to lead to, and some things that can seem really, really big can have minimal impact, but some things that can seem just so small because either the right person sees it or because it makes the right kind of impact. Not falling down, don't do that. That's probably not one of them, but they can make kind of a really big difference in your career.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to get like a big break in content creation. In esports, we used to say that you don't really work in esports. You basically volunteer in esports for a year, and then maybe you'll get like a minimum wage job doing the most mundane, boring stuff. For me, it was entering just data input into for different matches and stuff like that on the website for about 6 months, and then that kind of turned into, hey, this game called StarCraft is coming out. Do you want to broadcast that or do you want to commentate it? And then from there, it just kept on kind of building. So, like, don't be afraid to work for free, which is a really shitty thing, but like volunteering and getting involved in communities for absolutely nothing in return actually means a lot, because someone's going to be like, hey, that person's doing really good work and not getting anything for it. Maybe we should give them a try at something else.
Or even if it's just a minimum wage job, being able to like go into. There's a lot of people who work in the movie industry who start as like PAs on a set, right? They don't go. You don't go into your first job being like, and now I'm the CEO. Like you do. Content creation is also the type of thing, or outside the gaming industry, where you have to be a QA tester, and then you can start into the game development, and then you can go into like a senior developer or producer. Like you do really have to work your way up, and the opportunity to just make a big break where you're like, I'm gonna upload my first YouTube video and become like a viral YouTube sensation is just probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like I hate to break everyone's bubble, but it's probably not what it's gonna do, right? And loading up a Twitch stream for the first time, even if you have a super, unique one-off gimmicky thing that gets you a lot of attention, the longevity for something like that isn't going to carry unless you can continue to come up with something new and record breaking all the time.
Right.
So you do have to kind of start small and then slowly build up. There's definitely something to be said for that gradual climb versus like you fall as fast as you climb. So, just kind of keep that in mind when you're entering into a career. Is there any advice that you guys would have for someone that's just like, I know I like video games, I kind of like content, I don't know where I want to go next? Like, what would your advice to someone who there's a lot of people out there that like content creation or they like video games, but they don't know, do I want to be a QA tester? Do I want to be a producer? Do I want to be a partnerships manager? What do I want to do? What advice would you give to them to help figure out where they're going to find their niche, whatever you say?
I mean, with streaming, just do the research, you know, get OBS or whatever it is you want to use, set it up, and just have fun. Go in expecting to have fun, and don't do it because you want to be the next big broadcaster. I mean, that's like the easiest advice I can give about that. But game industry, you have to have a really level head because Twitch and YouTube are really tough, but you can do that on the side for fun. If you want to get a game industry job, it's tough. It's tough. If you got in about 10 years ago, you'd have a high chance of getting hired and all that. But right now, like, everyone getting out of college wants in. Those people that graduated years ago want in. And it's a really tough industry, and you have to be aware of that going in, and I guess keep a level head about it. So
I think one of the toughest things for anybody in life is, what do I want to do? And it's not just like, what do I want to do in the gaming industry? So for me, like, I had to take a step back from my, like, very, very much so in front of my face perspective of the universe. And it was, well, what's going to make me happy? And if I could ask myself and say, if I can wake up every single day and do this thing that makes me happy and potentially make a living out of it, that might be worth working my ass off for. That was what I wanted to do, and that was what broadcasting was for me. So if there's something that, for me, for advice to anybody who's sitting and has any idea, whether it's in the video game industry or not, like, if there's something that you can imagine yourself doing every single day and having fun, it's not even going to be work at that point. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, Bike Man, who's a Twitch streamer, tweeted about a week ago, and he's of the 17,000 plus partnered streamers on Twitch, which is already probably the 1% when it comes to broadcaster. He's probably one of the highest ones when it comes to subs, and he said that for people starting out, even him, if he's not playing something that he's enjoying, not looking at viewership, not looking at subs, but just simply enjoying the game, then it's not worth streaming to him. And I think if you go into streaming with that mentality and keep that with you, no matter what stage of streaming you are, you're probably going to be doing it right. And making sure that even if you have one viewer, even if it's your mom, make sure that your mom has the best day ever watching your stream. It's really important, even just one viewer, to make sure that they feel like they want to come back and watch you, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you're saying. Like, don't be combative. Just talk to them. Have a pleasant conversation with anyone whoever is in your chat, no matter what they're saying. Even if they're trolling the shit out of you, just be like, hey, why are you trolling the shit out of me? What's going on? Like, just talk to them. Conversation really helps.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing now, especially like you were saying and Pocket brought up earlier, that these platforms are growing, and they're growing all the time, and being able to just enjoy what you're doing and know that when you're going into it, you're going into that with the mindset of like, I'm going to give my 110% to this thing. Even when it's not what you want to do, right? You still should give it your 110%, because you'll be surprised at the things that will come back to you later. I know, like I said before, content creation and working for, like, Twitch didn't exist when I was in college. YouTube was literally only for cat videos at the time. Like, there was like not things that existed back then, and there was no way for me to have prepared myself for that if I hadn't constantly if I hadn't given 110% to the radio job that I had, if I hadn't gone and gotten my communications degree, and then following from that, if I hadn't been, I have a lot of weird jobs, but like all of those things combined really did set me up for the path of being able to be like, hi, I can pull from this and this and this and this and this, and that makes me really good at being the community manager that I have in my role today. So being able to look at the different things that you're pursuing at that point in your life, whether it's cosplay or content creation or production of shows or hosting, and going into it with 110% and taking out the experiences that you can to continually learn and grow, those will all at some point combine to be able to give you the experience that you need. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to take about 15 minutes of questions. We did start a little early, so we're going to end a little early. But we have yep, he's right back there. So if you have a question, we're going to like old school, like, hi, Mom. If you have a question, then we'll take them for you.
Dibs.
He got dibs. I thought you were just gonna like mysteriously continue to like walk real slow. It would have been cool as heck.
I'm amazed that actually works.
Yay! What's up?
All right, so I've been doing content creation for a bit. I've been struggling a little more recently with how do I like pursue this, because I have specific things that I plan on covering between now and like October, but at the same time there are things where a lot of other people are going to be covering it too, and I'm fully aware I could just get buried beneath the flood of that, and there's no knowing whether or not it's going to have any meaningful impact or draw for anyone. And I have little to no idea of how to properly manage or take advantage of search engine optimization. So my question is, what might I be able to do or manage that might help me to get my head a little further above water?
So, you're talking about YouTube specifically?
Well, that and Twitch. I've done a little streaming too, and I'd
Sure.
like to do that more regularly, but that's, it's one of the things where it's like you gotta have the time to do it. And I've got
Right.
a part-time job and part-time college.
Yeah.
And I'm doing YouTube as well when I can, so it's like,
There's a lot.
how do I do the schedule?
So specifically for either one of those, and you guys feel free to chime in, we were talking about search engine optimization. Knowing what keywords to use, so there's a thing like don't put your keywords just copied and pasted into your descriptions, but most search engines, including Twitch and YouTube, look through your title, they look through your description, and they look through the keywords that you use to tag your videos. And so if you are doing something, you need to be as descriptive as possible. And even if it's in your description, if you're saying like, hi, I'm going to upload a World of Warcraft video, and you know that World of Warcraft's an MMO, and you want to talk about something that's going on, you can say like, if you like these other MMOs, you should check out this video, and then when people search that MMO, your video will also come up. And so giving your using keywords to use, like your titles, your descriptions, your keywords that you're using, pulling in the things that other people who don't watch that but might like it would watch is super important to be able to doing that. Like just the science behind analytics is really important. Like thumbnails for your videos is always a thing. But then beyond that, I would say that if you specifically said that there are other people who are pushing out the same type of content, right? So if you have 15 people all doing the same thing, the people who get like the best thumbnails honestly are gonna that's why the people use clickbait, right? Because you have the best thumbnail, people are gonna click on it. But besides that, what can you do that puts your content aside? Is there a gimmick? Like, are you dressed in a troll costume because you're talking about World War? I don't know. Like, what are you doing that separates you from those other people? And you would have to really sit down and I would advise, like, any hour that you put into research and like R&D into your content, you're going to get back out of it. And so not just uploading content because you think you have a good idea, but what does your content do to separate itself from the sea of thousands of other people that are doing that? On Twitch specifically, I would say make sure that you are uploading and highlighting all of your past videos. Make sure you're using keywords, making sure that when people search for that information, your name comes up, right? When we did VODs for the first time, I was one of the first people to upload a bunch of Sims videos. And so when people search for The Sims, my name came up a bunch, right? Like, look at the science and the logistics behind the platforms. And you can't just be the most creative person. It does take a lot of knowledge behind what you're doing to get your content seen. That was a really long-winded answer, but science.
Science!
Basically. Yeah.
Another good thing that you can do is reach out to other content creators and do things with them as well. So if it's something that you can't, like, there's a lot of games coming out in the future that you can play with other people. And I already know a bunch of streamers that are like, hey, you want to play this together when it comes out? And so working with other people, you share your audiences together, and that helps both people in the end, usually, especially on YouTube. Something like YouTube where you can just go watch a video. On Twitch sometimes, if you stream at the same time, it conflicts a little bit, but even then it still usually helps each other. So it always helps to have friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had another question. There's a guy with his hand raised up here. Oh, moderator. Guardian.
I guess that guy has next then?
Yeah. Sorry. We have a lot of questions. Here you go. Right there. Sunglasses hat. use scripted words. I went to college.
Cool. 2 quick ones.
Sure.
One, I got everybody's name, but your name in the red air. What's your name?
Aurelian.
Aurelian.
Or Erin. Or that girl in the front. It's fine.
Thank you.
Whichever.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And number 2, when you decided you're going to do full-time streaming or platforming, was there a business attack that you placed upon yourselves when you did what you did, or did you just keep it off the cuff until they gave it to you, or how did you go about framing your actual individual personal business self when you did that?
Yeah, so for me specifically, I got into content creation accidentally. I did what I just told you guys all not to do. And I went to Twitter and just searched Minecraft. And then anyone that played Minecraft, I was like, do you want to play Minecraft with me? And it worked. And someone tweeted me back, and he happened to have, at the time, this was like 5 years ago, he happened to have like 200,000 subs, which was a lot on YouTube back in the day. And I didn't know what that meant. And he was like, oh, I make YouTube videos. And I was like, I thought YouTube was for cats. And so he said, no, people watch video games. And I was like, that sounds stupid. Why wouldn't they just play them themselves? And so then he trained me and told me all about this crazy thing. And so that's what I did. So I was lucky that I started out knowing people in the industry, but that was not enough. And getting a streamer to host you or someone to tweet out your channel is not enough to sustain you. I will tell you that right now. I can speak from personal experience. And so I was kind of at this weird level where my content was like down here, and it was like slowly climbing, and I was working 50 to 60 hours a week at a full-time job, and I was doing YouTube, and I'm a single mom. I was sleeping like 3.5 hours a night and for 4 hours, and after a year of that, you look dead inside, because you are. And so my parents got really scared, and they were like, oh, you look like you're dying, so why don't we pay your salary for 6 months, and you should quit your job, and you should do this YouTube thing. And which was crazy. That was awesome. My parents are the greatest people ever. And so I was like, okay. So the first month I was like, well, hey, I've made all of these friends in Minecraft. I had all of these big YouTuber people that I knew, that I had helped in some way or another. I'd planned parties, and they'd come to the parties that I'd thrown. And so I called in a favor with all of them. And for the month of December, I did an advent calendar where I did a different video with a different YouTuber every day and completed one section of a map. And so literally 24 different YouTube. My mom was the 25th one. It was so cute. So the 24 YouTubers that I had done all had 100 to 4 million subscribers. So my channel went from 30,000 to 75,000 subs in 30 days. And it was a giant leap for my channel, and then set me on a trajectory that was insane. And then I got to like 300, and then I quit. So it was great. And that's basically what happened. When I went full time, I was like, cool, I have to get people exposed to this content, and I have to let people know that I exist, and how am I going to do that? And I was very, very lucky that I had made a lot of friends with a lot of channels, and I was, no shame, called in a favor to every single one of them. And I was like, hey, will you help me out? And all of them were like, yes, I will help you. I will do a video with you. It's great for both of us. Let's go forward. And it's still one of my most viewed series on my channels, like 3.5 or 4 years later. That's it. Anyone else?
No, I think you killed it.
Nailed it. I'm out. Okay, another question?
I mean, I literally, I just got a little tidbit. I quit my full-time job after 4 years. I streamed, but then I quit for a year. Then I was like, I want to go back to streaming. I quit, and I didn't have any plan. I was like, if this doesn't work out, I guess I'll go become a nurse.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. I would not suggest doing that. Luckily, my audience came back, and they were like, hey, we want to watch you stream again, and they were very supportive. But don't just quit your job. That's a terrible idea.
Do not just quit your job.
Unless someone's willing to help you, I guess.
Yeah, and I was lucky too that in that month was the month that I went, oh hell no. And then I got a job at Twitch, and my parents were like, you're doing so great. And I was like, so about that, I got a job. And they were like, what? Okay, we don't need to pay your bills. Great, have fun. So, yes, that's how that worked.
Hi. So, I have been doing YouTube basically for the past year or so. So, if anyone was going to boo, that was the time. Anyway, I am actually fairly interested in Twitch. I have no idea what goes into it. But what I know is what I see, and what I tend to see is people who are very well equipped with PCs that could practically backdoor MI6 if they wanted to. And I know that doing what you can with what you have is most important. Erin, you were just showing us, at the beginning of the panel that you can literally stream with your phone.
Yep.
But if a beginner is going to look for one specific piece of equipment to start out with, what would you say is the most important one?
Can I hit this?
We should all give our own, because I think they're all going to be different, but go ahead, yeah.
All right, it's you. And that's the truth.
Aww.
I'll tell you flat out, like, I was partnered off of a PS4 and my cell phone playing Pandora music. And I'll speak that again, and you guys can hear it again or clip that, whatever you want, but I got partnered.
Yes, chat, you should clip that.
I got partnered off of my hard work and my personality playing a video game that I love playing. And that's the most important thing. That's the only thing that's different. Well, the 100% guaranteed thing that's different from you and everyone else in the world. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If somebody has a $4,000 PC and can't talk to you or doesn't care who you are, who X Twitch name is in chat, it doesn't make a difference. People are looking to find a home in a community, in a game that they want to see being played on Twitch. And that's the most important thing. Like, that's all I can say.
Do I have to follow that up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A microphone.
That's what I thought yours was going to be.
A good microphone. Because one thing personally speaking, I absolutely cannot stand going into someone's stream and they just have a terrible mic quality, and sometimes they're too loud so it sounds like they're swallowing the mic. Sometimes they're like whispering like this. And so it's a really good microphone. When I got a microphone, my quality, even without a good camera and all that, just increased significantly. So that's my opinion. I'm sorry.
I'll break your question a little bit. I think sound's probably the most important thing, so whatever you can do to support that. You don't necessarily need the best computer in the world. If you can stream 720p 30 and it's stable, that's fine. You don't need to really go higher than that until you kind of get towards the later game to try to jump up a little bit. But 720p 30 is pretty simple on a one PC solution. And then a webcam is probably... It's really up to you. If you feel more comfortable, like just being comfortable on stream is the most important thing. But a camera usually does generate more people just coming in and seeing what the broadcaster looks like, figuring out the mannerisms. Maybe you do a funny thing where you stare at the camera after you tell a joke or something like that. It's an easier way to interact with the audience. But if you don't use a camera, then make sure that whatever you're saying is funny, or you've got a good voice, you've got a booming radio voice, something like that. Just making sure that you're doing everything possible to maximize your stream for you is probably the best way to go about it.
I would say a friend who has technical knowledge, because I know nothing about any of the technical parts of streaming. And so for me, I get so discouraged when like someone's like, you're dropping frames, and I'm like, I don't know how to fix it, and then I just turn my stream off and I can't handle it, right? And so even if you're using like a PlayStation, if you know how to use that PlayStation so well, awesome. If you know how to like make your mic and it's a $5 mic from like wherever you got it, that's awesome. You should do that. I was not that person, and so for me, I knew that the most discouraging thing for me is that like I felt like I could be funny, I felt like I could nail the personality thing down, I felt like I could be relatable to people, but I just didn't know how to actually get that out of the void, and not where my microphone would kill people, or not where like I would be dropping frames, and it would, you can go back through my videos, my first videos, they are literally potato quality. There's like screen tearing. I'm like, why do people watch? This was so terrible. Until someone was like, okay, I love you, your videos are awful, and here's what you need to do. And I was like, oh, I just need to right click this setting when I render a video. Awesome, now all my videos are fixed after 2 years of YouTube. Like, just having that technical ability, and if you're not that person, that's totally okay. But if you have someone who can walk you through it, or you read guides, or you understand it, having that like aptitude to be able to make the stuff that you have, even if it's shit, if you make that shit work, you nailed it.
Yeah. I also think most people, and to go back to kind of what you said with the microphone, best advice I can give is do not buy Yetis. If you know what a Yeti is,
agree.
it's a USB microphone.
I had a Yeti. That should tell you something.
They sell to people and say it's like your nonstop, it's the cure-all for microphones. It's fucking dog shit. Do not buy the Yeti. It's a $100 mic that you can buy this cable, this mic, this for probably like $120, and just buy a simple mixer and plug that into your PC, and it'll sound beautiful.
What if this was all sponsored by Micro the Yeti, and they're just
Well,
like, fuck that guy?
It's fine. I don't buy them, so
Anyways,
I would not buy that. Like, learning what you're buying is probably the most important thing as well. Like, knowing kind of what she said, like knowing what you're buying or having someone help you in purchasing that stuff. And there's a ton of guides out there to grab all that.
Well,
news.
and one thing you can do now is go to a lot of streams or a lot of streamers, and they
We all
have what
list
they're
our
using.
specs.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
have
yeah.
everything listed, and when people always ask me what my mic is, and so I just will straight up tell them, I have a Rode
Right.
mic. So
Yeah.
that's a good way to gauge, like, wow, I really like your sound. What do you use? So-
There's also a website out there. You were talking about computers are really expensive. KB Mod has a guide that I don't know if they do them recently anymore, but they do them pretty recent, like pretty frequently, where they do a good, better, best. Where it'll show you, like, if you're wanting to stream high-powered games or you're wanting to play high-powered games, here's like a $500 solution, here's like a $1,000 solution, and here's like a $2,000 solution, and they give you all the parts that you would need to be able to run them with your specific intent at the different price points that you want, like a home build. So there are definitely guides that can get you a really good PC that will allow you to stream and play games. I have a 2 PC setup. I used a 1 PC setup for 4 years before I moved to that, and it was just fine. So there are guides out there that will help you figure out what equipment you need. So
Yep.
cool. Next question.
Proxy tips for him.
Oh wait, hold on. We'll do him and then we'll go right here. We're just close, and then we'll go right there next.
Real quick, since all of you guys have pretty much been happy with how your careers have progressed, what one thing would each of you have done sooner?
Ooh.
Probably just started what I do now. Procrastination's kind of the worst thing, especially when it comes to streaming. There's a lot of streamers that will sit there at their computer chair and watch other streams instead of just streaming themselves because they're afraid of failure, when failure is probably the best thing because then you can learn. And that's something that's said all the time, obviously. But it's very, very true in content creation. Like, if you don't create something, then you're just wasting time. And you're not a content creator.
Yeah.
You got to create something for it to fail before you can move on.
I probably would have advocated for myself a lot sooner. I sat back a lot, and because I'm used to be still / am sometimes very shy about things, and I don't want to go up to someone and assume that they should just hand me an opportunity. And so that means that I sit back and wait for them to come to me because I want them to think that I'm good enough. And it took me a long time to finally stop being associated with, like, you are the girl that plays with X boy and we need a girl to fill in the shoes. And so I was getting a lot of brand deals because they needed a girl, and I hated that stereotype, but I never spoke up against it. And so once I finally started going and advocating for myself and saying, like, no, I deserve this opportunity because these are all the awesome kick-ass things that I've done, I started getting companies that were like, oh shit, yeah, like, she's pretty cool. And then I started getting more things that weren't based around me as a girl gamer stereotype, right? And so I waited years to do that because I was just too shy. Like he said, I didn't want to be rejected. But for every one company that rejects me, 3 of them are like, oh fuck, okay. And then I get that. So I would have started advocating for myself a lot sooner if I'd just not been so shy.
I guess the one thing I wish I would have done is been on a schedule sooner. I had an actual schedule where I did things when I said I was going to do them at the same time, on the same days, every week. And because when I started actually doing that, I saw like a huge increase in quality of viewers, of everything, of support, because people knew when and what to expect from me. And that's something I wish I would have done from the beginning, really. So
I think fantastic. So it's tough to follow, but framing my mind, framing my social media presence around professionality would have been something that I would have liked to have done sooner. So for me, it took me about 2 years to realize, like, not many people might really care about my opinion about certain political things, or like who the hell is winning this week's sporting event. So about a year ago, I started doing, this is when I go live, this is what I'm doing, here's an awesome picture, come watch. That's it. So anybody that looks at my Twitter and scrolls up knows how business I am. They're not going to worry about my position on Donald Trump or, you know, what the hell is going on. Like, who cares? I'm a content creator. Like, that doesn't really necessarily matter. So having professional social media was something that really helped. I would love to have done that 2 years ago.
Cool. Last question right here. Oh,
Christ,
nailed
sorry.
it.
So, you know, I consider myself a gamer, but I stick to my own sphere of, like, maybe 10-ish games. And I'm not the best. Like, my main question is, can you be content creator if you suck at video
Yes.
games.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I was terrible at every video game, and it was awesome. And I'm still terrible at every video game, and it's awesome. In fact, one of the games that I play, The Sims 4, is great because there's a lot of devs who will come in from The Sims, like the Sims gurus, and come in and they'll be like, "You're doing it all wrong." And I'm like, "Yes," and I've been doing it all wrong for 16 years because that's how long I've played this game, and I've played it wrong the whole time. So yes, you don't have to be the best, but if you're not the best, embrace that, right? And
Totally,
if you
yeah.
embrace what you're good at and what you're enjoying, and I also made only Minecraft videos for years, and then I broke into The Sims, and now I do like only The Sims, Final Fantasy, and Minecraft. So like playing 10 games is fine. You don't have to be true variety where you play every single game that comes out all the time. You'll probably get more viewers that way, but you don't have to, right? If you embrace the fact that you are terrible at games, he said that, not me, then yes, absolutely, you can 100% do that.
Yeah, I think there's kind of 3 spheres. You can be really good at a game, you can be funny and entertaining, or you can have a gimmick.
Yeah.
And as long as you're in 2 of those spheres, then you kind of got a pretty good shot at it. If you're in all 3, then you're going to probably
Nailed
do
it.
really well. If you're
How
in one
can
of them,
you
you
be
might
bad
want to
and
work on one of
good
them.
at the same time?
What? Bad at a game, but have good.
Oh, okay.
Good commentary.
Got it.
It's
You're entertaining. You
yeah,
have fun.
entertaining. Yeah.
I would say that, yeah, going upon that, if you want to, or if you're not, I'm an amazing gamer. But a lot of people have fun watching me. Because I was QA for so long, I think I do a lot of weird things because I used to be a professional game breaker. And I've done a lot of entertaining things because of that. I've broken games on accident. And another thing, don't get mad. If someone comes in there and they correct you, be like, "Okay, man, thanks for the advice." But like, just don't get mad, because I've seen streamers that will absolutely lose their mind if they get told what to do. And you know, it happens. It's like, thanks for the advice, but okay. So.
Oh boy, I just missed that jump again. Oh, gotta turn it off now. Oh boy.
You know, there's some way to make it funny.
Yeah.
No matter what. If you're trying. If you're trying. If you.
He's not good at microphones.
I'm
That's his
bad at
gimmick.
this, dude. Damn. But I honestly love broadcasts where people aren't trying hard, because I try so hard every day. Like I try for like 1 percentiles in like hundreds of thousands of people every day in an MMO. It's very dry, so I love finding entertaining broadcasts like that, and it's like one of my favorite corners of Twitch. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that helped my stream and build the sense of community that I have, because I don't know how to do a lot of things. So I started playing Final Fantasy 6 months ago, and I all the time I'm like, chat, what do I do? What do I do? How do I handle this? And like, backseat gamers love my channel because they can literally tell me what to do all the time. And so I'm very open about not being good, right? And I want to learn. And so I'm asking the chat all the time, how do I do this? Oh, I'm doing it wrong. How should I do it? And then they get in arguments like, don't do it that way. Do it this way, because Twitch chat always knows. So, I mean, yes, you can definitely embrace that and grow from a personality from that. I think that's all the time we have. We did start early, and I have a panel in 3 minutes. That's all the way across the convention center. So rip me. But thank you guys all so much for coming and for participating and asking all the questions that you guys asked. If you guys want to shout out your Twitter accounts one time, I'm at Aurelian, and then this, and then y'all can go. And thank you very much.
/HitMeJP on everything.
I'm Pocket with 2 Ks.
Joe never fails everywhere.
All right, thank you guys.
Hey, dude.